you're looking at the LA Rams. I think if you look back at the LA Rams in 2025 season, you could see that the old Rams of 2021 was creeping in there, and they was looking like they could potentially at some point become a championship winning team again. Especially when you look at the roster they have, especially with Matthew Stafford having one of the best seasons of his career. Matthew Stafford finally becoming winning the MVP for the first time in his career, long overdue, but I'm glad that he won that award. Again, he's an excellent quarterback, so I'm glad that he won that award. But you especially look at how Matthew Stafford was. He had an MVP year, and that was valid with him winning that award. And then you look at like Colby Parkinson and Puka Nakua and so many other people on the offense and even on the defense side of the ball, you could definitely see that we're kind of seeing that if that kind of 2.0, the Rams building something for hopefully maybe 2026 or 2027. But the LA Rams again, they invested heavily. They invested in. They did sign a couple of additions on this in 2025. Davante Adams came in from the Jets. Uh, Wide receiver and corner Coleman Shelton came in from Bears football, and then Landman came in from the Falcons at linebacker. They did have some key people that departed in the 2025 off season, which ultimately was in the 2025 off season, which was the biggest loss I thought, in my opinion, to the Rams was Cooper Kupp, who departed to the Seahawks, and then you had Hunter Long, who went to Jacksonville, Christian Rambu, who went to the Panthers, inside linebacker, Demarcus Robinson, wide receiver from the 49ers, Tyler Johnson, wide receiver to the Jets, and then Joe Notebook came in at right tackle, who departed from right tackle to the Ravens. So again, you look at some of those guys, a couple of big departures that are going on, and still this team was I think it was a really good rebuild. I think in 2025 for this team, they did trade away the first pick to the Falcons, and then the second round pick they drafted Terrence Ferguson, tight end from Oregon. They traded a few more picks to the Panthers and the Falcons, the Colts and the Steelers and the Colts again, and Bears football and the Vikings again, and then they drafted Josiah Stewart, offensive linebacker. So again, you're replacing one of your outside linebackers with Josiah Stewart from Michigan. Jaraz Hunter, running back from Auburn. Ty Hamilton, nose tackle from Ohio State. Inside linebacker Chris Paul Jr. from Ole Miss. And then Kanate Mumsfield, wide receiver from Pittsburgh, which again, probably good wide receiver 3 there. Then you look at their schedule, like this. After week 7, they were 5-2. So you're looking at those some pretty impressive wins here. Game wins on the road against Baltimore and Jacksonville, and again a good win against the Colts and the Texans at home. So again, these are they're not being scrub ass teams. They're getting some pretty good impressive wins here. Then they come off the bye week of week 8. Then they just go on they win the next 5 games. They just beat the Saints, get a great road win against the 49ers, beat Seattle, beat the Buccaneers at home, and then they beat the Cardinals on the road, beat the Lions. I don't want to talk about that. We'll move on from that bit. They lose in overtime to the Seahawks by 1. It was like a 1 point in overtime, but that was a really good game. And then they win the last game, which is against the Cardinals, 37-20. And then their offense was best. They had the best offense in the league. The Rams had the best offense in the league. It was first out of 32. Even with Cooper Kupp departing, they still had the best offense in the league. And when you've got guys like Puka Nakua, Kyren Williams, and such on, so much good depth that you have on that offensive side of the ball. Again, I think the only thing that let the Rams down this year was their defense. I think their defense was one of the problems this year. Their defense was 10th out of 32 in the league, And if you want to be, again, if you want to be up there as a Super Bowl contending team or winning the Super Bowl, as the Rams know, you've got to have a top 5 or at least top 3 defense in the league, and they were top 10. And I think, you know, if you're going into 2026, you've got to go back and look at that defense, get an edge rusher. I think Joe Notebook was a huge loss for this team in 2025. I think definitely you got to look at nose tackle, you got to look at edge, linebacker, another couple of cornerbacks. That's where I think really the Rams should be looking at for 2026. Matthew Stafford, though, like I said, he won MVP. He had over 4,707 passing yards. Fantastic regular season. Kyron Williams had over 1,252 rushing yards. Puka Nacua had over 1,000 receiving yards. The Rams do have a bit of money to spend in the offseason for 2026. They have about $44 million in cap space. So again, not too bad. Again, they have $8 million in dead cap, so you can work around that. They did get second in the division, winning 12 out of 5 games. They beat the Panthers on the road 34-31. They beat Bears football in overtime in the divisional game, and that was like the first win in Chicago since 2003. And I know they've had really a bad record over in Chicago in like playoff games, regular games, and that was the first win on the road in Chicago since like 2003. And then they lost the championship game to the Seahawks again. The Seahawks got them again, and that was down to the defense. The defense let them down in that game. It was 27-31 to the Seahawks, and they lost their NFC Championship game. And that was the first time like the Seahawks have beaten the Rams in the playoffs, and the first time like the Seahawks have beaten, that's the first time the Seahawks have beaten the Rams in the playoffs. So impressive for them, and I'm going to get to them later on. But you look at this again. They did lose their offensive coordinator. The Rams lost their offensive coordinator during the off season. So after the 2025 season, so Nathan Shadowhouse comes in as the new offensive coordinator. Let's see how that goes on. If their offense kind of regresses, they do have a 13th round pick. They do have 2 first round picks, a 13th pick overall, and then a 29th pick, and then they could have like a 2nd round pick, a 3rd round pick, a 4th round pick, and a 5th, and 6th and 7th round picks later on. But yeah, I just think that really the biggest concern for this team is defense, and they definitely have to beef up that. They have to beef up the secondary. That has to be the goal for 2026, and hopefully that you can maybe get back to, because again, you're doing so well offensively, and if Matthew Stafford can still put up those numbers when I know he's like nearly 38, 39, like he's 39, nearly 40 now. But again, at some point you're probably gonna have to look for a replacement for Matthew Stafford. And I don't know, I've had this kind of feeling for a while that maybe they're gonna do like a trade for Lamar, because I know Lamar's contract's up. I don't know if he's like signed a new deal or not yet, but I have this suspicion that the Rams are gonna go all in. I don't know if it's gonna be this off season or maybe the 2020. I feel like, I don't know. I have this feeling at the back of my head that the Rams are gonna go all in on Lamar Jackson. They're gonna, like, Lamar's gonna get pissed off with the Ravens not meeting his expectations, and now that the Ravens have got a new head coach in Jesse Minter, like, he's probably thinking, do I really want to stay here and go for a rebuild, or do I want to get a trade to somewhere like the Rams, where I'm under a Super Bowl winning head coach, a young Super Bowl winning head coach like Sean McVay, and I'm going to win something. Plus he's in California, I guess, as well. That's kind of a big pull for people. But yeah, I have this kind of thing that at some point, maybe the 2026 off season or maybe next year, I don't know, I just feel like I feel like the Rams front office are going to go for Lamar. And that's going to be, again, so you're going from Stafford, who again just won MVP, over 4,000 passing yards, to Lamar, who again is a multi-time MVP anyway. So again, you're going to that slow progression to the next generation now. And again, if you get Lamar, who's 29 this year, you're getting him at the peak of his powers. Fantastic, in my opinion.